All right, long time no see. Good to see everybody. Just as one thing ends, another one begins, and so just feels good to finish out the 2026 class. Feels good to have that roster in place, and um, again with just one transfer portal window, you feel pretty solid that the roster that we have as of today, that's signed and sealed, is going to be the same roster we'll have come August, barring unforeseen injuries and things like that. But I thought overall, just like a year ago, really excited about those freshmen that we have coming in, and then the mid-year guys, that we signed. Again, probably, hopefully in the future, not as many of those guys. I like to be able to use those mid-year guys sparingly. That's just a philosophy that I have. But the neat thing about every single one of those guys is that we knew of them previously, whether it was a connection of like for example, like Xavier, one of the mid-year running backs, played high school football for Coach Thompson, and Juwan Jackson played high school football for my younger brother, and so all of these guys, had a connection to us, whether it's previously recruiting, previously family members, previously from some of our team. Which that's the part you always get a little nervous about the mid-year guys, because you have such a small window of time to get to know them, especially when you're new and trying to build a culture, that you feel like you're on the right path. You want to make sure you're adding the right kind of guys, and those mid-year guys were that, and then these guys that kind of rounded out the class. Pretty exciting stuff. Having some state champs, some players of the year, some local guys, guys from great programs. All in all, roster feels really good moving forward.
Thinking of how you've talked about recruiting guys that you want to be loyal to the program, um, how much may have needed to change with approaching the mid-year guys, because you had some mid-year guys from last year who went back in the portal
Yeah.
after 1 year.
Yeah, that's the risk you run. I think anytime you take a guy, whether he might be your second, it's like, well, if he leaves you once, or if he left the place once, is he more likely to leave again? But I do think sometimes you need to, like for example, running back is a great position group to talk about, where I think we had, off of last year's roster, through graduation and some attrition, I think we lost like five backs, and they were all like third year guys, fourth year guys, fifth year guys, and so you're sometimes just, there's no choice. You have to take those guys, and again, I like the fact that we took Xavier, who, or just knowing him personally from Coach Thompson, his family, his mom came on to visit, and so it just feels like, okay, this guy has the right stuff. He's looking for a place to finish it out, as opposed to potentially just a stop along the journey, and that was something all these guys, just it felt like this is it for them. This is, they've kind of been there and done that. They're looking for what we were describing to them, and now it's really up to us to provide that.
Two Price brothers now on the roster.
Yeah, kind of fun. Yeah, no, it's better late than never. I think that's probably the lesson on that one. We really wanted him out of high school. It's just the situation we were in at linebacker, with the funds that we had already dedicated to that position group. We just, unfortunately, couldn't get him at that point in time. But he's going to be, I think, a factor. Just he played a lot at South Dakota State. So that was neat to see him play meaningful snaps there. Still held his red shirt, which was good. Played in some of those playoff games, which is also a great sign. But it's just such a fantastic family, and again, both those kids playing for Coach Swenson at Valley. Like, you're going to get guys that, but they work hard, they know how to win, they know standards, they know how to hold those standards, and Aiden was super impressive. For us in the off season, I remember my first impression of him watching us do sled pushes and never get tired. Andrew is that too, and so just having both of them on the team, that brotherly love slash rivalry that's going on now. They try to outdo each other, and even though they play different positions, they're both pretty athletic and have a similar skill set. Just excited to have those two guys on the same squad finally.
With this class, with your new strength coach,
Yeah.
how do you feel about speed and size
Oh,
throughout the roster compared
Great. And I think really just, you know, it wasn't the season that we wanted, but I wouldn't have traded it because it helped us find out who certain individuals were. We've now empowered the right kind of guys, the guys that continually brought us down or continue problems. Like, we've parted ways with those guys. So we have a roster that is made of the right stuff in here, but then also, we recruited some speed. There's a couple of state champ track guys in that group and guys that were finalists, that are playing linebacker. Tate was a finalist in the 100-meter for Van Meter, and he's a linebacker, which is pretty exciting. But, I think our strength coach, he's done a fantastic job really these first 3 weeks and a couple days where, speed, athleticism, explosiveness, resiliency. Like when you watch us in the weight room, a lot of the movements that we're doing, you can tell are going to enhance those things. But I think more importantly, a lot of people don't realize the value of a strength coach goes way beyond the physical stuff. So if you were to walk into our weight room, there's actually a workout going on right now. Everybody's shoes are going to be tied. Everybody's going to be wearing the right things. There's that, if anybody's hunched over, the body language is bad. They're going to know about it. They're going to know how to finish a set the right way or a rep the right way. There's constant movement in there. There's hustle. There's attention to detail. There's urgency, and so our Coach Jones has really established some new standards for our guys. They've embraced the heck out of them, and gets me really excited to see us here in April. What we're doing I think is going to enhance the speed and athleticism of our team. Let's see us do it on the field.
When do your 15 spring practices officially start?
March 31st, I think, is that Tuesday. I think, so we'll start that last week, March, first week, April. We're going to switch it up a little bit. Traditionally, what a lot of teams have done is that spring game is usually that 15th practice. We're going to bump it up to the 12th practice. So we're going to go through 4 weeks of spring ball, have a spring game, really that 12th practice to see where we're at, and then use 13, 14, and 15 accordingly. Okay, so now we kind of know, we should have a good grasp on, okay, this is what we need to work on, this is who we need to feature, and then how healthy are we at that point, how hard do we want to go. That gives us 3 more days to hopefully figure that out. But everything will be in the dome this year, which last year with the construction, we were over Cedar Falls there for the spring game. We were outside pretty much the whole time for spring ball. So now, one of the things our new strength coach has talked about is to be able to train on that turf, to be able to practice on that turf is, hopefully will help the injury situation.
So what will be the official day of the 12th practice? Do you have that?
Oh man, the 24th of April, I think. I think that sounds right. So it's whatever that Saturday is. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but yeah, so we'll get that out for sure. Hopefully soon. 25th. I got a 2-5 over there, so yeah, 25th be that Saturday. And we're gonna do a 2:00 kick just to see how that feels, So we did 1:00 last year. We'll try 2:00. We'll play at 4. We'll play at 7. So we'll just try to bounce around just to get a good feel for timing, pregame, how long it takes to get to that Panther. Doing a gratitude high five after the game. All that stuff.
What is it? 6 offensive linemen among this 34? 5 or 6?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that depth in that group? And
Yeah.
what do they do to build depth?
Well, that's the thing with that group, we lost some guys off of that team that played significant snaps. We are pretty pumped about Kyle Kelly, making a full return. So he was kind of a part-time guy last year where he split time with Gavin Proudfoot. They both kind of played equally there towards the end of the year, but he was coming off a knee injury and again was you could start to see those glimpses of, oh man, when he was at Arkansas State and type of high school player he was. So we're hoping that he steps up. But then really there's a slew of them that they've been in the 2 deep, and so now, hey, let's see what they're made of. Let's give them some opportunities to be the guy. But then also the freshman class that we brought in, that's a big old class. So how can we get them physically up to speed? Some of them still need to gain a little bit of weight, but they looked the part from a length and athleticism standpoint. So, hey, let's see if we can get you guys in the 2 deep. Let's see if we can get you guys competing for some of the starting positions.
Coach,
Coach, any thoughts on the North Dakota State situation that kind of broke over the weekend?
Yeah, that was, it was weird seeing that kind of matriculate into my social media feeds, and then, today it finally was the official announcement. My gut reaction, to be honest, I a little bummed out. That's the team that has really ruled our division for so long, and when you lose a competitor like that, we talk about outrageous love on our team a lot, and that's love of your opponent, because when you're playing great opponents, that brings out the best in you. And so seeing them leave the conference bums me out. Now, if my wife was standing up here, she'd be saying, "Hey, here's your hat. What's your hurry? Don't let the door hit you on the way out," because that's a game that's going to be a tough one. And so I just mixed emotions. Seeing them leave the conference, but on the bright side, now our league will be able to play everybody. Where you don't have one team that cycles off, so you really do get a true champion. And hey, man, you played every team in our league, and there's you didn't have to sit out one regardless of how good or bad that one was. So.
We haven't seen you since the FCS, before the FCS National Championship game. A program like Illinois State making that game when, I don't know what they are precisely, but their dollars don't stack up with the top guys. What's that do for you guys' psyche? And maybe in particular, just the importance of, hey, if we spend our dollars wisely, look no further than the Redbirds.
Yeah. I two things I thought that really stuck out watching them make their run. Number one, that's the value of great competition. When you have to show up week in and week out because you're facing a team that's in the top 25, that matters. All of a sudden, if you can hit your stride and at the right point, if you're getting guys healthy, if you're playing well at the end of the year, because of what you went through during the year, you've got a great chance to go into some hostile environments and take on some teams that are supposedly better than you. But I think to your point, yeah, if you can build the right culture with the right kind of guys and you can invest in them, so it doesn't necessarily mean like overspending and throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars individual, but like, hey, what are things that need to be in place to help our team and our players become their best individually, whether that's nutrition, whether that's equipment, whether that's training methods, whatever it is. You don't need to spend the most in the conference to do some pretty good damage in the playoffs. So, hats off to them and what they accomplished. Coach Speck does an awesome job. That team, again, had a lot of older guys, and guys that had started their career there, that finished their career there. They've got guys coming back, and so I just think that how do you create an environment that makes it really hard to leave, and then those guys that have those opportunities to leave for a lot of money, how do you build a roster from the ground up to where you can have a next man up mentality? So pretty exciting to see Illinois State do that.
Having brought up social media earlier, did you get any good passers out of the UNI volleyball team this last week?
I was not surprised that they were naturals. Now, some of them I couldn't quite get the ball to come off their hand the right way. Just like at the last second it would kind of twist funny, and but yeah, not surprised that they good hand-eye coordination. A couple of them, they're letting the ball go and it is not on target, but they're able to track it and catch it the right way. And that there was some that in a pinch, we might have to see if they have any eligibility for a football perspective. But that was fun. It was a good time. I didn't realize that footballs were a part of warming up. Getting your arms warm. I've seen Major League Baseball players do that, but it makes sense if your profession has swinging involved.